All right, welcome to our tips and tricks video for Social Studies 6 and our How to Be Successful video. So, first things that I want to point out is that you're either doing this video and this assignment as part of week 1, or if you join after the month of September, I'm going to have you do it as just part of a welcome module, and then we'll jump you ahead to wherever the class is. Okay, so first trick or tip I want to give you is that when you look at the modules, right, you'll see here with this week 3 summary page, it's got a check mark. What those check marks mean is that you've, in the case of just a page, that you viewed it, or if it's an assignment, that you've gone ahead and submitted it. So it's a quick and easy way for you to visually check and see what's been done and what hasn't been done. Okay, so that's your first really tip. By the way, I'm on the modules page for our class. I knew I was missing something earlier. So we're going to go into this week 3 summary page. Okay, and every single week there's going to be one of these pages. You can think of this page as being like your home page for the class for the week. Okay, so we're going to have our learning targets for the week and our success criteria. So what are we trying to learn and how will you know you've learned it? Okay, and then underneath that, we've got what I call learning activities. And I call them learning activities because these are things that don't count for your grade, but they're how you're going to introduce yourself to and then ultimately learn the material. Okay, so, and most weeks it's going to look roughly like this. There's going to be some kind of a vocabulary assignment. You'll do some reading, you'll take some notes. There might be an additional summative assignment. There might be another formative assignment, but most weeks are going to look like this. Okay, so these are the ones, again, where you're doing your learning. So I don't expect you to be familiar with the material as you're coming across it. I mean, I certainly hope you will be, but I don't expect it. Okay, the summative activities, these are the ones that do count for your grade. And I want you to think of these as being like the big game if you're an athlete, or the big performance if you're a theater kid or a music kid, right? These are the big deal. These are the ones that affect your grade. These ones, these learning activities, these are like your practices, okay? So just like you wouldn't go play in the big game or perform in the big concert or perform in the big show without doing the practice, right? Without running your drills and getting your skills better, without learning your lines and familiarizing yourself with the music, right? Just like you wouldn't do that for those performance pieces, I don't want you to do that for my class. So I want you to do the learning activities because they're going to help you do well on these summative ones, and the summative ones will actually affect your grade. So that's, by the way, my first tip or trick, or second, I guess, is to keep up with them and make sure that you're doing the formative ones. Every week, or most weeks, there'll be these what are called just suggested additional learning activities. And these are things if you're particularly interested in a topic we're studying, there may be some additional resources that I'll just go ahead and direct you to. So a lot of times they'll be reading, sometimes they might be things like podcasts, right? So for this week, we're studying Mesopotamia, and Gilgamesh is a very famous epic poem. Nice part about myths and legends is he tells it basically as a story. And he does it across 3 weeks, so we've got 3 parts there. The bottom part of this is where you're going to find your Zoom information. So you'll find what are we doing in Zoom, okay? And then after the Zoom meeting, within about a day or so, you'll find the video for the Zoom class if you want to go ahead and watch that if you're not in class, or maybe you want to refer back to it later on, okay? Most of the time what we'll do is we'll go through the assignments for the week and we might go ahead and get started on them. Sometimes we'll debate some of the larger questions, like what does it mean to be a civilization, for example, right? Okay, so that is about the weekly summary page. Next thing I want to teach you is about how to log into and access our textbook. These links, by the way, these will link you to the assignments, and if there's a video, like with the vocabulary, the video will be embedded there. But to get to our textbook, I'm going to click over here on the left, see this Teach TCI link. You're going to click on that, and when you do, it's going to open a page that looks kind of like this. I'm a teacher, I have more than one class that uses TCI, so I've got 2 of these tiles. You'll have just one, right? Once it loads all the way up, you can just exit out of that. And then once you've exited out of that, these links will work to take you to exactly where you need to go in the text. So if I click on this introduction one, for example, it's going to take me right away to the right lesson and to the introduction to the lesson. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to call your attention to some things as we're doing this. And first thing I want to call your attention to is down here on the bottom left where it says English. If you happen to speak and read Spanish and want it to be in Spanish, you can change the language on that. Okay, doesn't do it for other languages, unfortunately. Last time I checked, they were still working on that, but it will do it for Spanish. All right, other things. Reading levels. A is on level reading. That means it's at a 6th grade level. Okay, so that in theory is where all or most of you are reading, but I know realistically you may not be. The B is about a 4th grade reading level. So if you're struggling with reading, go ahead, flip it into the B and see if that'll make sense. And basically what it does is they use smaller words and they simplify the sentences, but the content stays the same. Okay, nobody, and I do mean nobody, myself included, knows which version you read. So use it. Okay, if you need it, use it. Next part of this, right, these 2 buttons, play and stop, it will actually read the text to you and it will highlight as it goes, as it's doing that. Okay, so that you can follow along. And this is really cool, again, if you're one of my kids who doesn't like to read or maybe struggles with reading, because then you can listen to it, right? And this, for example, if I had my son in class, this is what he would do every time, I guarantee it, because he doesn't like to read. So he would play it and listen to it. Okay, but it'll actually go through and do that. And this, it'll stop it at a given spot, and then you can hit play again and it'll pick up in the right spot. Okay. Next thing I want to call your attention to, every time we're doing reading, I'm going to ask you to take some notes. And one of the first ways I'm going to ask you to do that is to I'm going to talk about turning headings into questions. Okay. But one of the ways you can check to make sure am I getting the important information is you click that main ideas light bulb, and all of a sudden see where it's got this blue text right here? That's the main idea. What that means is if you write down nothing else, you got to get that stuff in your notes. Okay, it's a great way to check your notes and make sure you've got the most important information. And I do say check your notes because I don't want you copying what the text says word for word. Put it into your own words. It's okay. You won't goof it up. And I want you to do that because it helps you to remember it better over the long term. It forces you to think it through and make sure you actually understand what you're reading. Okay, so put it into your own words. Another thing you can do, right, is highlight. So if you highlight the text and then you pick a color, it'll let you highlight it. Okay, and eventually I'm gonna teach you 3 different ways to take notes and have you practice them, and then eventually I'm gonna say take notes however you want to. Those highlights can help you do that. Okay, and then if you wanted to get rid of it, because maybe you're like me and you hate to read with highlights on the text, you can do that. It'll let you add sticky notes to the text, not me, but it does allow you to do that. If you want to save it to your Google Drive, maybe you're going to read it on a tablet or something like that, you can save the text so that you could read it somewhere else. Okay. One other thing I want to call your attention to up here, this printer icon. If you're one of my kids who happens to have access to a printer and genuinely prefers written text, you can absolutely print the text out to read. Okay. One other thing worth calling your attention to as well is down at the bottom, when we get to that point where you're taking your own notes, there's questions that you can do. And that would be another way to kind of utilize your textbook to help you make sure you're getting the main ideas. All right, so I think that covers just about everything. When you're done watching the video, you're going to complete the assignment for this, and what the assignment's going to ask you to do is ask me one or more questions. Okay, one or more questions, and ask as many as you want. I'll answer them in the comments to the assignment, and if enough kids are asking the same questions, I'll bring them into class and I'll go over them in class as well. Okay, and those questions could be about the stuff from the video today. It might be questions about, are we going to study X, Y, or Z topic that I'm really genuinely interested in? Anything like that, but ask me a question, right? Ask me a question. So, speaking of which, if you need any help or have any questions, go ahead and don't forget to reach out. You can reach out to me with your questions, but you can also always read directions when you've got questions for my class, right? Or watch the videos. And then you've got a learning coach at home, hopefully an adult, who's helping you navigate everything. You can also ask them. Okay, so lots and lots of resources to help you be successful. All right, if you have questions about all of this, go ahead and let me know. And otherwise, I'll see you in class.